Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. It is me, Ian Barker, the Embarcadero Developer Advocate here today. I'm slightly shifting to one of our friends from, I think we now call it Code Gear, but joining me today is Chief of Staff at UltraEdit, which is the best job title ever. I'm so jealous. I want one like Ministry of Defense or something. Is Ben Schwenk, and here you are.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. It's a pleasure to be here presenting on UltraEdit. I actually come from, my background is with UltraEdit. Some of you may know me. I actually started with UltraEdit fresh out of college, working as a support rep, and got to learn the product quite a bit. Absolutely loved interacting with our users and our customers, and eventually moved into a product management role. Which is where I was prior to stepping into this chief of staff role. So a little bit more on the business side of things, but still very closely connected to the product. Love UltraEdit, love showcasing its abilities. It's an awesome tool. And so anything that we can do to help people get more out of it, understand the full power of it, I'm on board. I'm here for.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I do a little bit of developer relations for each of the idea companies, or ones that make sense. It would be any use me talking about. I mean, I could talk about databases, but what's the point, But there's other that much better than that. But UltraEdit, of the ones I deal with, I have to say, I have a little soft spot in my heart. I actually am a genuine user. I'm not just saying that because I'm being paid to say that. I have been paid, but I say it because I actually love the product. Even before I went and started working for Embarcadero, I used it very generously. I got a copy because I was an MVP. And you know what? It's got some really great features. I keep going on about this, but the big file handling is the one for me. That's the killer. I use that regularly to search through big open files and go, I need to, SQL files, and they're like huge as well. Tweak that little setting. It's much easier than select this, insert that, and all that nonsense. No, I can just do it in a SQL script and off we go. So great stuff.
Exactly.
Well, today, let me just check. You're going to be talking about some power features to do with search, find and replace, and a few other things that people may not know. That's the thing I always find. There's something new I didn't know about in the.
Yeah. I mean, with UltraEdit, we have a very powerful find and replace engine. A lot of supplementary functionality around that a lot of people don't fully understand. Maybe they're a little bit afraid of, or just haven't taken the time to learn it. And really, most users, when they fire up UltraEdit and they hit Control F for that first search, they've got everything they need. For 80% of their search needs, they've got it right there. And may never go beyond that. So my hope with this webinar was that we could dig into some of the nitty gritty of some of these advanced or extended functionalities, and maybe uncover some new interesting use cases for people, or maybe someone will see something they're like, oh, I could really use that in my workflow or whatever. So,
and if, for anybody that's watching this who isn't an existing user, and we're going to probably ask about that a little bit later, we might have a couple of polls. Polls with the OLLS, not polls from Poland. That would be confusing. But we're probably going to ask a few questions. But if you're not an existing user, they can just go to ultraedit.com. That's right. And can they download a trial? I'm not sure if there's a trial.
Download a free trial. It's a fully functional 30-day trial. And yeah, it's right there.
Try it out. That's the real secret, is try before you buy. It is a paid product, it's not free, but I think if you play around with it, things like the hex editor is a lot of fun for me as a developer. I've got a proper hex editor again, and the big file, like I said, the big file handling, some of the power things it does. The more you scratch the surface of UltraEdit, the more you go, oh, I like that. That's good. And so what I'm going to do during your presentation, I'm going to turn my camera off because nobody needs to see me 24 hours a day. As beautiful as I am. But I'll hide myself. You can leave your camera on, and then they'll be able to see you. You're set as a presenter, so as soon as you want to share your screen, go ahead.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into it. And Ian, as I'm going through, I want to invite you to interrupt me with any questions that we might get from our audience or that you might have yourself. If you feel like I could flesh something out a little bit more, explain something better, let me know. So
Sure, no problem. I will be here, everyone. Just have my camera turned off because it just gets a bit too confusing with two of us wandering around and doing stuff. Okay, over to you then, Ben.
awesome. All right, I'm going to share my screen. I think you should be seeing UltraEdit right now with a big empty area.
Yep, all good.
Okay, and how's our contrast? I'm in a dark theme. I can change the theme if I need to. Let me just flip over to let's go to this file here. Is this fairly visible?
That looks great, yeah. I think that's perfectly legible.
Okay.
If anybody's got a problem, if they want to put it in the question window or in the chat, we'll answer
let me
it.
know if I need to make any adjustments.
Yeah, I'll be flagging the questions as we go along anyway. So.
Okay, cool. And also, just so everyone out there knows, you can easily switch the theme in UltraEdit in the Layout tab, and then the themes drop down here. Monokai Pro, that's my personal favorite. There are a lot of good ones in here you can try. So let's dive into the world of find and replace. I, again, really love this part of UltraEdit. There's a lot of really neat beneath the surface things. When you come into UltraEdit for the first time, approaching this as a new user, and you hit Control F, you're going to see this quick find open up in the top right. Now, it's a little bit small on my screen. I am a 4K monitor user, so I apologize if it looks very small as you're viewing this, and there's a little bit of a lack of contrast. In fact, let me go ahead and change the theme here because I want you to be able to see. Okay, so we can see a little bit more of a border around the quick find window here. So this is going to be where you do 80% of your searching. And of course, we've all seen something like this in our browser or whatever. As we type, we see the matches highlight, and you can hit enter, Control enter to move backward, enter to move forward through your matches. So pretty straightforward, nothing super fascinating about this. However, there are a couple things that I do want to show you here. First is the filter button, okay? So we can actually very quickly filter a file based on a string by clicking that. So for example, let's say, I don't know, I've seen a lot of NLD here. So let's filter by NLD. So now what we've got here is a view of the file, only the lines that contain this string NLD. All right, so that can be pretty useful when you're, looking through a log file, or maybe looking through code lines and you want to see where some variable is used, something along those lines. And if you ever want to, restore the full view of the file and get rid of this filter, you can come here to the Home tab, and then you've got the clear filter button here. You can hit that, and then you're back to where you were before. Okay, and one other note here, if you're a power user, I shouldn't say power user, if you're a keyboard user and you don't like using the mouse, you can also use the keyboard shortcut Control Star on your numeric keypad, and that's gonna unfold or defilter your file for you as well. Now, when you're looking for something in UltraEdit and you want to, again, keeping with the keyboard theme here, not having to leave your keyboard and move over to the mouse, you want to navigate through your file. F3 is the key mapping that you'll want to use, or the keyboard button that you'll want to use to progress, and then Control F3 is going to take you backward through the file, and that will wrap around. As you can see here in the bottom right, you get a little animation letting you know that you've wrapped around to the bottom or to the top of the file, which is highly useful. And let's say that you want to select all or some occurrences of this string here because you want to make some modification, some edit. So I'm actually going to we're going to press escape to clear the highlighting and escape to clear the quick find. Let's say that you're in the middle of editing. You don't want to bring up the search. You've got this string here, and I've got my UltraEdit set up to where when I double click a string, it'll highlight all occurrences of that string. You can actually select all of these strings by using control semicolon. Actually, control semicolon selects the next occurrence. So as I'm hitting control semicolon, it's adding the next occurrence of the string, and then I can either backspace and begin typing something else here, or I can, let me revert this. I can use control comma, and that's actually going to select all of them. So control comma is what you're going to use to select all occurrences of the string. And a little tip is you can see if you're wanting a quick count of how many times this string occurs in the file. Might be hard again to see on the broadcast, but down here in the status bar, you might be able to see right here, it says 33 active carets. And that's letting you know that there are 33 occurrences of this string in the file. So this, I don't know, it's not exactly a search feature per se, but it is a way to quickly visually find occurrences of some word in a sea of text, if that's what you're looking for. So getting back to search. Now, if I've pressed Control F to bring up my quick find again. If I press Control F another time while quick find is open, that's going to open my larger find and replace dialog. And this is really where we get into the business end of search. So again, the key mapping for that is Control FF. You can just hold Control and hit F twice. Alt F3 also will open find and replace. And actually, I want to show you if you're not a fan of the quick find and you'd prefer Control F to go to the regular find dialog straight away and just bypass the quick search totally, you can easily do that. So we have an UltraEdit key mapping for pretty much every dialog, every command. And the easiest way to find that key mapping is to hit Control Shift P, and that's going to open up your command palette. Okay, you can search here. We're on this theme of search, so this works. But you can search here in the command palette for any command, any menu item, any setting that exists in UltraEdit. So I want to find key mapping. So I actually, you know what? I'm going to go to settings first. So let's just go to settings. And here I can actually navigate down through my topics on the left, my categories. We see key mapping here. So we want to remap find and replace Control F to, I'm sorry, quick find Control F to the larger find and replace dialog. So in order to do that, I'm going to click inside this list of commands. I'm going to hit Q for quick find, and we can see here that Control F is mapped to it. I'm going to remove it. And then we're going to go to find, and we're going to type Control F in this press new key input and click assign. And now when I hit Control F, my regular find and replace dialog opens up. So just a little shortcut tip if you want to bypass the quick find. So
I actually use the, sorry Ben, I use the palette myself because I turn the ribbon off. I'm one of these weird programmers that likes, you know,
minimalist kind of UI.
Banish the ribbon, you know, and
yeah.
Once you do that, the palette is very, very useful to go and, first of all, find out what's there because you can't see it unless, you know, you click on lots of menu options. But secondly, it goes straight to the option, and I really like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I use the command palette all the time. It's actually really powerful. You can open files from it. You can open, like, search through your recently open files as well. That's a different webinar though. But yeah, I get a lot of use out of it.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah. Just start typing a file path in and you'll see it start to autocomplete it. It pulls the file system directly and it'll offer autocomplete suggestions like in a
Very cool.
terminal or
See,
something.
these are the kind of things you need to make your life easier. That's what I like about UltraEdit.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, if you're not a fan, if you like the traditional menus and toolbars, you can get there just by right-clicking on the ribbon. I know we're kind of off on a rabbit trail here, but there's toolbar menu mode option down at the bottom, and you can go with the traditional or contemporary menus. Traditional is more like typical editor menu. Contemporary just follows the same organizational structure of the ribbon. So pick which one you want, and that will also help give you more of a classic view. Okay, so we're here in the regular find and replace dialog. I think it's pretty obvious how find works in UltraEdit. I'm not going to go through every single option here and save some time, but I do want to cover how you can change the scope of find and replace in UltraEdit. And here you can use just a file search. You can also search in all your open files or in selected text. Okay, so let's say, for example, that you want to, let's see, I think down towards the middle of this huge SQL file, I've got some text that I was looking at the other day. So yeah, let's say that you want to, just right here, you've got this statement in this SQL file and you want to replace something, let's see, you want to find something, you want to find code in here. So searching in selected text is quite nice for that because it'll show you the parameters of your selection and then also highlight the occurrence of the found item. Now, one of the nice things about UltraEdit is if you select more than a single line of text, so you've got some line breaks in your selection, you hit Control F, it's going to default to that selected text option. So it's going to assume that your intention is to search within that selected text. However, there is a setting, and use the command palette if you want to get to it, that will allow you to change that behavior. Almost everything in UltraEdit is configurable or customizable. So if you find some behavior that you're like, that doesn't really work for me, head into settings or use that command palette and change it because we intentionally design it that way. All right, so we can search in selected text. We can also do a column-based search. So a lot of you know that UltraEdit is also very well known for its column mode. Alt-C will take us into column mode. That changes the font. I've got that intentionally set so that I know when I'm in column mode, but let me go ahead and make it bigger here. And let's say that, I'm in column mode and I want to search, after this opening parentheses here, in this column here for, I don't know, some string. So if I'm in column mode, what I can do is I can make the selection of the column that I want to search. Let's just go all the way out past the end of the line here. And then if I open the find dialog, down here in this in column option, it's going to auto-populate the from and to columns with whatever my selection is. So if you're working with CSV file that's been formatted into columns or structured data like this in a SQL file, you can make this selection and then hit this in column option. And then let's see, what are we going to search for here? Let's search for Holland. I think that was something that was in here. Nope. Let's search for something that I can actually see. So now you can see that UltraEdit is limiting the scope of the search to just this column, and I can step through, that's the only occurrence, but I could step through each of these occurrences of my string throughout the file. So very handy little feature for searching in columns. All right. Another handy feature is our count all button here. So let me find a string.
Just FYI, we've got quite a few questions, but we'll probably deal with them in a little bit's time, I think, because they're various questions about how do I do this and how do I do that. So I think if you carry on for now, and then we can stop maybe in a few minutes and address some of the questions.
Let me get into the next section as well. We might actually cover some of those. If not, we'll get back to them.
Sure.
We can count all here. We'll see that 7 occurrences are found of this particular string. And then again, if you use that control comma trick where you select all occurrences, then you'll see how many carets you have, and that will also give you a count. Let's see here. So I'm going to switch over to this log file. This is just a sample log file. Don't worry, there's no incriminating user information here. This is all just mock data that was put together for the purposes of testing. So I want to show you a couple of.
All the fun out of it, Ben. You're supposed to show something confidential every so often.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, there's still plenty of time for me to do that. So just hang tight. Who knows what'll happen?
Yeah.
I wanted to demonstrate quickly our filtering feature. You already kind of saw this with quick find and hitting the filter button, but it actually can go both ways. So you can filter lines in or out. So let's say that, I'm dealing with this log file and I want to hide all lines in this log file that can contain authentication failure. So I will, by the way, if you select a string and then hit Control F, it will auto-populate that string in your find dialog, so you don't have to manually type it or copy paste. I'm going to hit the filter lines option, and instead of saying show, I'm going to hit hide. And when I hit next, it's going to hide all lines that contain authentication failure. Okay, so that's very handy, especially if you're scrubbing through a log file trying to determine what happened somewhere, and you've got right? Usually you want to see all the lines that contain a particular string, but I just wanted you to know that that's available. All right, so something else along these lines that can be very useful to you is this option right here. And this is one of the most understated options in the find dialog. I can promise you that. Let me go ahead and clear this filter. But the list lines containing string option is going to let's highlight a different string. Let's say I'll use user news because I know that exists in here a few times.
In a moment, can you maybe swap to a different theme, because someone's saying that it's difficult to see the wording on the find.
Sure. Let me go back to Monokai Pro. Is this any better? Still a little bit dark?
I think they mean the actual theme on the find and replace dialog.
Okay. All right. Not one dark. Let's try Studio Dark. That's better.
Yeah, that looks good.
Hopefully that helps the contrast.
Definitely.
All right. So this list lines containing string, once you run the search, it's going to open a totally separate window. And this is essentially a filtered view of your file. It's all lines in your file containing this string. Now, this is pretty cool in and of itself, and I can double click to jump around to my different locations. But it has some additional functionality that isn't quite apparent from first glance. But if you right click anywhere, then you can do a couple things. You can copy all of this to your clipboard. You can change some of the settings here to show line numbers or not, to select the match on double click, all these things. But you can also copy the results to a new file. So if you need to get a subset of data out of a text file into another file, it's as easy as doing this. And now you've got all of those lines containing that string in a separate file that you can then do whatever you need to with. You can also dock this window. So if you want to dock it here at the bottom and then, hit the pin button to collapse it and open it whenever you need it, you can do that. But this is a highly useful nifty little feature here of the find dialog, which again, when you're maybe working through a code file and you know that you've got so many instances of a function call that you need to go through and inspect and maybe refactor or whatever, this is a perfect way of doing it.
This is like the ultimate power tool for a debug log as well, because when you've got a lot of stuff that's being sent out to a logger, which is kind of what it's showing anyway, being able to go, oh, everything is being spewed out there, but really what I want to do is put a string in my log strings that I can then filter on and extract out like this, and that is very cool, because how many hours a day do you spend looking at a log file and go, oh, missed it?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and this stuff was all born out of use cases like that. We're using UltraEdit, and we're like, man, I really wish I had a way to refer to these lines containing these strings, and so this find string list was born, right? So it's tried and tested in terms of its power and functionality. Almost everything you could think of is there. A couple other things I want to show real quick, and then let's get to questions, Ian. We'll go back to our log file here. One of the things you can do with UltraEdit, as you can with any editor, almost any editor, is bookmark lines, right? So if I click over here in the margin, I can add a few bookmarks, and then I can use the keyboard shortcut F2 to jump between those bookmarks. Now, let's say that you're doing a search, some other task that involves a search, and you open the find string list here. Actually, let's just go back to the find dialog. We can check this option, bookmark matching lines. Okay, so that is going to add bookmarks to the file of all lines that match our search string. Now the problem is that now you've got your search bookmarks intermixed with your other bookmarks that you set previously. But we've thought of that. So what you can do is come over here to the home tab, and in the bookmarks drop down, you can clear just the find bookmarks. So now you're back just to the original bookmarks that you had beforehand. Also, if you have those bookmarks set and you leave them set, then you can do some pretty cool things like copy all lines, copy all bookmark lines, cut, delete. So a lot of different things that you can do with bookmarks out of the find and replace as well. Okay, so why don't we pause here, Ian, and hit me with any questions that you feel might be relevant.
Sure, okay. Laurie says, can you just show the right-click feature in the find string list again? Apparently that was their killer feature for them.
Yeah, so we're gonna right-click anywhere in the find string list, and my favorite are copy to clipboard and copy results to new file.
Yeah, that for me is the thing, going to a new file and then being able to have a whole list of specific targeted strings.
Yep.
Which is great stuff. Okay, Laurie, I hope that answers your question.
Yep.
Right, what else? We've got some others. What is the setting for the double click to select all occurrences of a string? I think what they mean is how do you how do you make that turn on? I think it's on by default actually.
It actually isn't by default. I think you have to hold either shift or control and double click in order for it to highlight all occurrences. So we're very careful as we introduce new functionality. We don't want to force it down our users' throats. So that was actually one of our internal debates before we released this feature. Should we turn it on by default? So I think we added a keyboard modifier to it. I changed mine to just work on double click. If you want to do the same, then hit Control Shift P. Sorry, Ian, were you saying something?
Yeah, it's shift. I just checked on my copy.
Yeah.
You hold down the shift, double click, and it will highlight everything. Yeah.
Yep. You can also use Control period if you don't have anything selected. Again, you don't want to reach for the mouse. Hit Control period, and that will highlight all occurrences of the string that's under your active caret. So actually, you can see here in my history, I looked for this setting recently, but if you just type in highlight all in the command palette, you're going to see here the setting for that. So this is going to take you right to it. And let's see here. Oh, that's highlight all. That's the auto reset setting. Actually, the one we're looking for is, here it is. It's under advanced. Highlight all occurrences of selected word on double click. So this is default setting, shift plus double click.
Yeah, that's what I have. Yeah.
And then you can tweak it further if you want it to match the case or match the whole word only, and then even a subset when the selection is a whole word only. So a lot of different tweaks that you can make there. Anything else?
Yeah, there's a few. If Kun Kai, I think that's how I pronounce the name. If he or she has lots of SAS code, SAS code.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not quite sure what it means. Can I open them and search and replace some specific code in one step? Well, actually, yeah, you did kind of show that, I think. So the answer is yes. We'll just say yes.
We have a demo. I have a demo coming up here in a couple minutes, which will show you exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah, and someone else asked about replays as well, because someone said, oh, should I take notes? Don't worry, the replay will be out on the YouTube channel, and I think everybody that's registered. So if you're here now in the webinar, then you are registered, and you'll automatically get an updated email in a day, probably whenever it's a GoToWebinar thing. So it will trigger. You will get a link to the replay. This is automatically happening, so you don't need to do anything further. But it'll be on the YouTube, it'll be on the blog, and it'll be on emails as well. So don't worry if you missed something, or we went too quick, or you know, you didn't quite catch it. It will be in the replay. You'll be able to see it.
Yep.
Is the only way to obtain results from a search to copy to a new file? There are not multiple search windows. If I do search A and then based on those results do search B, I can't get back to my first search results other than copying to a new file. No, I think when you search, you can send it to a tab, and then you can search again and send those results to a tab, and then double click to go backwards and forwards between them. So.
Yep. Yeah, if you want to do a search and copy the results from that find string list to a new file, and then start filtering in that new file to drill down even further, you can do that, right? And then repeat the process to go several levels deep if that's what you need to do.
Yeah, really go down the rabbit hole trying to find something.
Yep, exactly.
When you double click on NLD, how do you set up UltraEdit to highlight? We just spoke about that. Our mum was asking about double clicking on NLD and highlighting everything. That's basically what we were talking about when we were saying shift and double click by default. When editing a file and having some lines hidden, is there a way to limit the find to search only the visible lines? Ignore matches in hidden lines. Conversely, if there are several hundred hidden lines, can we search among the hidden lines and make those lines with a match for the search string become visible? That's by Mark. It's a bit of a big question to unpack, so good luck.
Yeah, I understand what's being asked there. I don't think there's a way to do that just straight away. You might get a little creative with regular expressions, but if I got that question in support, what I would suggest is either copying all visible lines or all hidden lines, you know, or either doing the otherwise doing the find string list search to get the subset of data to a separate file and then working with that. If you knew regular expressions, for those of you who know them, if you're really good with that, then you can maybe do something that could get you pretty close, but it'd be hit or miss. You have to.
I have a different name for regular expressions. If you're not sure, the correct term for me is the tool of Satan. So there is a website that helps you learn regular expressions. I've been a developer for 40 years. I still hate them. Okay, so don't feel bad if you're not someone that likes regex. But actually, regex is very useful for certain, you know, find and replace and, you know, things like that. But I still believe they were invented as a practical joke, you know, at some point in the past.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I think we all have
there's a question about UltraEdit support, which we'll talk about later about how to contact people. And then does UltraEdit have a way to test highlight regexes in real time? Actually, that's a good question. This is by Craig. Does UltraEdit have a way to test / highlight regexes in real time, similar to NeoVim?
Unfortunately not. However, this is something I've talked to our team about, and I feel that we should add this at some point because as someone who has delved into the world of regex before, you've got to have that test tool available. Otherwise, it's just you can't put together like a complicated regex without testing it every step of the way. So that is something that we're strongly considering for the future.
And like I say, don't feel bad if you don't get regexes, because I don't, and I've been doing it for 40 years.
Right.
Okay, the rest of the questions really we've either answered already, or they pertain to what you're about to talk about. There was one that said, excuse me, could you demonstrate how to do find and replace for all files in a directory? I think that's fairly straightforward demo I've done myself. Okay, all right. Do you want to carry on for now, and we'll come back to some more questions?
Yeah, let me move a little bit more quickly. I can't believe that we've been at this half an hour, but there's a lot to cover, I guess. So I'm going to come back into this SQL file, and I want to show you guys something with replace this is a little more esoteric. Not many of you will get super excited about this, but I think it's pretty cool. So in general, in replace, which Control R, by the way, will take you to the replace tab straight away. It has pretty much the same options as find does. If you want to replace just in selected text or in all open files, you can do that. And what's very helpful about replace in all open files is if you need to do a replacement across a large number of files, but you don't want that replacement to be permanent, which is what you would get with replace in files, then you can open the files in UltraEdit, get 20, 50 files open, and then do the replace in all open files, and you can actually step through and check each replacement before you commit those changes to disk, before you save, right? So I want to show you this preserve case option here because it's pretty interesting. So I have here in this little drop table statement here, I have an example. So let's say that we want to change like this code string to something like seq underscore code. Now what you'll see is, if case is important to you, that we have a couple of different case formats of that string. So we've got all caps here, lowercase here, and then we've got title case here. With this preserve case option, let me set it to selected text here. With this preserve case option, as we step through, it's actually going to preserve the case of each replacement, right? So I don't know, I think that that's pretty cool, and I had to share it. Replace in general is pretty straightforward, so I don't feel like we need to do a ton of demos around that. And in fact, let's move over to find in files now. All right, so this is like, taking find to the next level. I think this was one of the questions. How do I search for a string across my entire project, across an entire directory? So find in files is where you're going to do that. And I think I'll switch over to a different file for find in files here. Got a PHP file open from a PHP project. So again, pretty straightforward, pretty obvious what all of the settings do here. My favorite files and project files option are grayed out in terms of the search scope because I don't have any favorite files set up and I don't have a project open. So a project in UltraEdit is just a collection of files. It's very simple and straightforward. It's nothing too complicated. It's not like a project in Visual Studio or Rad Studio or some other IDE. But if you had that, then you could search just in your project, which is very helpful. Okay, you can set your filter here based on file extension or file type. You can also set partial file names here using a wildcard. And then you want to set your search directory correctly. So this button here, this is going to actually set your search target to the parent folder of the active file. So in this case, it's going to this subfolder within my PHP spreadsheet folder, and I want to go up one directory. So I'm going to delete that last part. You can also use the explore option here to pick a folder on your system. And then let me show you, we'll keep the search subdirectories, aka recursive search, we'll keep that checked. We can set whether or not we have context lines that are shown. So in our search results right here, if you can see, we're going to return 2 lines above the search string, the match string, and 2 lines after. We can do a reverse search. If I check this option, then we can actually search for files or lines that don't contain the search string that we're looking for. So that can be useful as well. And then some options down here, ignore hidden subdirectories. You can specify subdirectories to ignore in search, like .git would be a common one of those. Any file names or extensions to ignore in search, and use encoding. This is an advanced option. I would recommend not checking it unless you know what you're doing. But let's go ahead and run this search. Let's see, I'm going to search for cell reference. And this is going to give us a list of occurrences in this folder down here in our output window. Okay, and we can actually create.
It's like a file grep search, right?
It's a grep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's a grep with a GUI. And we can create more output windows if we want. So Control Shift F, by the way, will get you to find in files. So if I want to do a second one, it's going to write it to a second window here. We can create a third, a fourth, however many we want. So within here, we have all occurrences. We can, from the context menu, do some interesting things. We can collapse all these results and then just go through them one by one if we want. Double clicking will open the file to the location of the hit. And then one other interesting thing that I wanted to show is that we can modify the format of the search results here. So maybe you don't want to see like this big long file name at the beginning of every result. So if we go back to settings and we go to find output format, then you can see here we've got the format defined and some variables for our output format. So right here in the found line, the P represents the full path to the file. Let's just delete that and then see what we've got. Yeah, so that looks a lot better, right? We see more of the business end of the search, more of the content, and we can still double click and navigate to the search or to the match location. One other option with find in files, we can send these results to the edit window. So in the same way that we can send our find string list from the active file to a new file tab, we can do the same for find in files. So here we have, let me just make this a little smaller. Here we have the same results that have been written now to a text file that we can do whatever with. And then there's one last thing that I want to show you with find in files. One interesting thing that's rather unassuming, the interactive results option right here. So when I check this option and do a search, I am going to get every single result, a subset of the file containing the match actually open in a single edit tab. So I have every file that contains this string open right now, but UltraEdit is using, it's using a partial edit buffer to only open part of the file so that I'm only looking at sections of the file that contain that search string. So this can be extremely helpful if you're wanting to actually look. I am looking at the file as it is on disk right now. So if I were to open one of these files, and actually we can, I'm gonna hold control and then collapse, hit this collapse button in the margin. I don't know if you can see it in the gutter here. And that's going to collapse all my results. So here I have a list of all files that contain my search string, and now I can expand them one by one. If I were to open this file separately, which I can if I right click on it and say open, now I've got this file open, and make a change here to it over here, it's going to update and reflect over here in my interactive results.
Nice.
So we can actually, let me go ahead and hold control and hit the expand here to expand them all again. So what we can do,
these are live results, right, Ben? That's what you're saying.
These are live results. Yep.
Yeah.
These are live results. So what we can do is open a replace dialog within our interactive live results here. And let's say that we want to replace this variable cell reference with cell reference ext. I don't know, just coming up with something. And we're going to say replace in all results. So this is going to run the replace in all of these files which are open. We get a warning here letting us know it's modifying all results. We say yes. And
I admire you for doing this live because
I just had a crash.
You're gonna go again.
So let me get back to where I was. This is why we do things live, because it makes things fun and exciting.
And it's funny because a lot of the questions you've got, I've been able to say, hey, Ben just showed that, you know, and Ben shows this and Ben shows this. Although the good news is John Reynolds is offering us a body part in exchange for a feature. I think that's an unusual way of, asking for features. He wants to offer his left arm if you add the ability to save lists of ignore files. He's asked for it before, he said, and apparently we decided we weren't going to do that particular thing. But so if you need an additional left arm, John,
say that again. Say that again. What was the feature?
He wants to be able to save lists of ignored files. So ignore the, if you, I'm not quite sure what he means. I think he means if you've got a string that does not match.
Talking about down here, right?
Yeah.
So we have like the same kind of thing with the favorites here, where you can, I don't have any favorites right now, but you can save your search favorites. You could also save, or like a drop down here or here that saves like your history.
Does that mean we can do it?
We can,
possibly. Yeah, it's going to have to pass that left arm up. If anybody needs an additional left arm at UltraEdit, then we've got it. So that's great. Bad luck, John. You're going to have to.
We might take it just for the fun of it.
Yeah, if not, we add it just to make his life misery. Thanks, John. He's obviously been a user for a while as well, which is, you know, that's a great thing.
Yeah. So
yes, he said,
obviously we're going to look at.
You've made his day. It does actually do what you asked for. So good job.
That's great. That's great. So in the interest of time, I'm going to move on from the interactive results here. I'm not going to go into replacing files. This essentially is going to do a direct replacement of strings on the file on disk without opening it. So if you have a huge subset of data and you're 100% totally confident that you know that you want to replace a string in those files, because this is irreversible, there's no undo with replacing files, then you can use replacing files for that. But again, tread very carefully and use an abundance of caution with replacing files. It's the same kind of, it will list, and if we went through this, you'd see that it would list the change files so you could go through and make sure that it replaced what you expected and all of that. So I won't get into that. I've been talking a while. I'm curious if we have any further questions or any clarifications.
Yeah, we do. Let me just turn my mic on. So first of all, you seem to have definitely done what John was asking for before, which is great. He said he suggested it in 2021, and it's there now. So, and he seems quite happy about that. Excuse me. Just one second. Let me mute my mic whilst I cough, because of the allergies in Texas are fantastic. There you go. I'm probably not going to die on the camera. That would be good. Can the find in the files work with files open via FTP? Will it, I'm going to guess that the answer to that is probably not. Will it search for the desired string in files in the directory or the remote host? It's kind of an unusual use case, but I can see why he would ask for that.
Yeah. So UltraEdit won't search directly on a remote server, but UltraFinder will. It will do a search on, okay, so I need to clarify. I think it actually downloads the files first and then runs the search locally. So that's an important clarification, because if you've got 3 GB of data on your server, you probably need to know that. But it will run a search on a remote directory, and you can, from UltraFinder, open a result or open multiple results in UltraEdit for further editing. Our applications are designed to, seamlessly work together in that way.
Yeah, and actually another question from John, our favorite guy without a left arm now. He and this goes to another question that someone else asked, which was which versions do these features appear in? And John's saying, hey, he's looking at his version and he doesn't see that option that you're showing. I think the answer is that most of the things you're showing, some of the find has been around for a while, because I've been using UltraEdit a couple of years now, and the functionality for a lot of this has been there for a good time. But
most of it should be in almost every version.
Yeah.
The interactive find option is relatively new. It's within the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
so,
and John, I mean, my question there would be as well, and we're actually going to do some polls. And I don't think Tristan's set any up yet, but I think the question there would be, John, are you updating regularly as well? Because if you've got a contract, a maintenance contract, I think this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Ben, because UltraEdit works slightly differently to Embarcadero, but I know that whenever I open UltraEdit every so often, say, good news, there's a new version. And the best part it says is, and I really like this phraseology, and it's free to you, which is great as well. You know, it's a real kind of affirmation of why you've got this maintenance contract. It means you're going to get the free version and it's going to download. But I always update it. I mean, it takes only a couple of seconds to update to the latest version. It's not like a RAD Studio thing where it's got to do lots of replacements and things like that. My computer's reasonably fast, but it's not the fastest out there. I don't think UltraEdit update has ever taken more than a minute, and I would be surprised if it's anywhere even close to that. So
no, yeah, it's very quick.
Yeah, so the answer, John says he doesn't see any drop down in the subdirectories to ignore search. Yeah, John, try updating, and if not, then contact support. That was another question.
Let's clarify. That's Ian. That's not actually there. So I apologize if I misled John or you. What I was saying was, because we've done this with some of the other settings in the Find in Files dialog, we could relatively easily add it. No promises here, of course.
Oh, okay. So
this is all subject to PM review and road mapping and all of that, but we could add it here. So I think we crossed our wires at some point on that.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay. I've been offered a promotion for Ultra. So Bob Stillerman says he's been offered a promotion for Ultra Finder. I've asked support how to evaluate if Ultra Finder would be useful to me, and secondly, how to get the offer discount. Your support staff have not answered. Well, I'm sorry about that, Bob. Can you help with these questions? There was another question kind of related, which I'll kind of combine with this, which is what's the best way to contact support? And if they don't feel like they're getting a response to support, what can they do about that as well? So, you know, what's the right way to contact support?
So first of all, Bob, I want to apologize that you haven't received a response. We pride ourselves with UltraEdit on getting responses back fast. So if we miss the mark there, then I'm disappointed and I apologize. I will say that we have just transitioned to a new support ticketing system. For almost 30 years, I think. We ran our support out of email, out of a shared email box, and which was great because it made us very agile and we were able to respond to customers very quickly and collaborate with each other. But now that we've kind of developed our support team a little bit, we've recognized the need to move to a more formalized ticketing system. This just happened, so there are some kinks that we're still working out. And I will go after this webinar, I will go and check with our support team to make sure your ticket is answered. For anyone else who has any questions, the best way to get an answer on a technical issue or question is to email support@ultraedit.com. That'll automatically create a ticket. One of our reps will evaluate it, respond, or escalate as needed. And if for some reason that you aren't getting a response in the time you think you should, which we would expect within a few hours, email IDM, that's India Delta Mike, @ultraedit.com, and just forward your support request and we'll get it sorted that way. Again, working out some wrinkles with the new support system, so thanks for your patience.
Yeah, it's important to note as well that one of the things about Idera, because both UltraEdit and Embarcadero belong to Idera, certainly when I joined the company for Embarcadero, I tried to make absolutely certain that people understood we are not a black box. We are not a faceless monolith, you know, because with respect to Microsoft, fantastic company, I use Microsoft products. But if you've got a problem with internet, Microsoft Edge, for example, and you don't like the AI in it, let's say you go, oh God, no, I really don't want that. Who would you contact? Who would you contact at Microsoft? And the answer is you won't know and you'll never know. Not because they're bad, not because they're horrible people, because they have really changed a lot since the bad old days, but because they're just not set up that way. Well, with Embarcadero, Idera, and people like that, you can see the face. Ben is on the screen there now. You can hunt him down and get to him. But actually, joking aside, we want to make sure that you understand there are human beings behind this. This is not automated by AI or anything like that. There are actual people who are responding to you, and we do take it personally. Support is a very important part of making sure you continue to choose to be our customer. And by our, I mean UltraEdit and Embarcadero. It's very important to us that you are happy. We know when you sit down as a developer or whatever your job is, you know, DBS manager or something like that, we're sitting at that desk with you. UltraEdit is part of your tool for getting your work done. And if it doesn't do what you want, or you're struggling to understand the full features of it, and there are a lot, we know that's having an impact on your day. And we don't want to have an impact on your day. We want to make sure that we're actually contributing towards you being happy with it. So, you know, contact us. And this is not an idle threat. We really do listen to what you've got to say and get back to you. And we take it personally. It's not some kind of glib saying, oh, we're really sorry about that, move on. No, we mean it.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not uncommon for me to get an email escalated like, hey, Ben, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about this user's feedback, right? And so we really do take to heart all the feedback that we get, whether it's an idea or there's a frustration or whatever it is with UltraEdit. Like Ian said, it does not go into a black box. We will internally discuss anything that you might feel is worthy of discussion. I didn't get to regular expressions in this webinar, but Scott had an interesting question. I think it was Scott. Yeah, so he asked about the regex style. So if you actually do, like if we actually do a search with regular expressions, you're gonna see that there are 3 different types, 3 different flavors of regex here, which I know is probably making your eye twitch, Ian, having to deal with 3 different formats of regex. I recommend personally the Perl regex. They're based on the powerful PCRE, I think it's PCRE engine or library from Boost, which is highly extensive, has a ton of functionality and features in it. And it's also compatible with your standard regex that you would write when you're Python programming or, you know, doing JavaScript or something like that. So if you already understand regex from that side of things, then that will immediately transfer to the Perl regex in UltraEdit. We do have our own proprietary regex format here, the UltraEdit style. It's a little bit different, not quite as powerful as the Perl style. So I always tell people stick with Perl.
Yeah, so that answer, it is Scott Lewandowski actually that asked that question. A couple of other questions. First of all, more of a statement from Bob, who's been our star guest today, asking questions. And he said, I agree that with the 20+ years that I've used UltraEdit and UltraEdit Studio, which is another, you get everything with UltraEdit Studio. It's everything in the kitchen sink. It's a good way as well. It's not just, you know, we're throwing some junk in to make it attractive. No, all the cool stuff comes in UltraEdit Studio. But he says, in the 20+ years that I've used UltraEdit and UltraEdit Studio, the support has been great. I was surprised at the recent dropping of the ball when someone didn't get back to me. So actually what I was saying was, that's not typical that someone didn't reply. It's the opposite. It normally gets that. So thanks for that, Bob. And there was another question. Are you going to do a presentation on UltraFinder in the future? I think the answer is probably.
we probably should. Yeah. We're always looking for new topics or new things to showcase in webinars. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, and Scott's question we've answered. Laurie says, she says, I apologize if you're not a woman, actually, I'm just spelling it Laurie, so actually it could be either, I guess. When I use Control F, I don't get the full dialog box. Is there a setting for the dialog box? I think they mean they get an abbreviated find box. Not quite sure.
So this is what we talked about at the beginning, I think, right, where you get the quick find here. So again, if you come to settings and drop down to key mapping, and then in your big long list of commands here, rather than manually scrolling all the way down, click inside of it and hit Q to drop down to the command starting with Q, the letter Q. The first one is quick find, and you'll see here that it's mapped to Control F. If you don't want that, hit remove, and then come up, hit F again in the commands list to jump up to the F commands, and then come down to find, hit or click inside this press new multi-key input here and type Control F. So that's the command you want to assign to the regular find dialog. Hit assign, And then when you close this, and now I hit Control F, it's going to bring up Find straight away.
Cool. That was Laurie's question, and he, I apologize, Laurie, has a follow-up question, which is, do you know who to contact for support for Ultra Compare?
Yeah, it would be the same, support@ultraedit.com. We keep them all under the UltraEdit brand umbrella. So any question about any of our products on any platform, direct it to support@ultraedit.com.
Yeah, and a follow-up, a different sort of question, but is there a channel for a feature request, says Keith? I guess that's the same thing, really. You know, does it
Support.
do this? And if not, can it do this? I always say this in Embarcadero, and I think I'm not talking out of turn to say this about UltraEdit as well, but a good idea is a good idea, you know, and if it's one of these ideas where everyone goes, oh, that's such a good idea, if it's possible within the framework of, you know, manpower, female power, whatever you want to call it, coder power, and budgeting and getting past, you know, various regulatory hurdles and all the horrible things that happen when you are an international company. If it's possible and it's a great idea, then of course people will consider putting it in and try and get it done. Because, you know, if it's one of those features where it's obviously a good idea, then it's obviously a good idea to try and put it in the product. But, you know, it's not as straightforward as just going, we can do it and off we go. It's there's a lot of moving cogs behind the scenes.
For sure.
I think that's kind of it, really. Most of the others have been answered. And we're actually at the top of the hour as well, so perfect timing. You did a good presentation. We're just a little bit over the hour.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, well, I'll just turn my camera on very briefly as well, so we just have me back in view. Great. I mean, I mean this sincerely when I say to people, I like getting involved with the UltraEdit stuff because I'm a fan as well. I mean, yeah, I know I work for Embarcadero and we're both owned by Idea, but I genuinely think it's a great product. And you're only, believe me, it's taken an hour to go through all the find and replace features and the rest of it, and you're not even beginning to scratch the surface of what the product can do. Things like the hex editor view and the XML view. I have on the in my screen I have the Explorer view and then the files in there. Going onto a file and having it automatically show the latest version. So I've got a log ticking away and the log scrolling up, you know, actively in UltraEdit and stuff like that. It's got, as soon as you start using it, you find more and more things it can do. So it's really great. So lots of people showing you some love there. Jean, Javier, Bob, Patrick saying thanks for the webinar as well, Ben. So
you're very welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Excellent. Well, if there's nothing else, if we've covered everything, then it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Ben as well.
Yes, thank you, Ian, and thanks again to all of our attendees. Appreciate you all.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks everybody for coming. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.